India, one of the most fascinating and culturally diverse places I know. And India's design is equally diverse, mixing influences, styles and cultures. We're going to meet two type designers and graphic designers who are exploring possibilities of typography today in India. So good to finally speak to you also on the camera. Tell me from the beginning, how did you decide to go to study in the US?
I thought it would be best because of our, the way the world is right now, in a very globalized sense, especially graphic design, where we're borrowing things across the board. I felt it would be more beneficial if I got a bird's eye view from outside. Sometimes a view is better from the outside. So, and also I wanted to experience a different kind of education as well.
Were you interested in typography already, like when you were in India, or was it developed while in MICA?
Typography was always there for me. I would always find myself drawing the logos on all my notebooks. Of course, type has a very big part to play, especially in Tamil cinema, which I watch all the time, in posters and title credits. And they used to take it very, very seriously. I think they still do. I used to buy albums based on the logos of the bands, like Iron Maiden, Megadeth. I loved them. I loved all of those logos. But I never did type design till I met Tal Lemming in MICA. Usually when people think of globalization is about everyone becoming the same, but actually it's about everyone getting access to other people's cultures more than before. And that makes it more important that you know what your culture is. And so I was very clear from the very beginning that I wanted to come back.
When I came first time to India, this was in 2006, so 12, 13 years ago. It was the time when India was discovering potential of design, what design can do. Advertising agencies were opening the bureaus here. It was challenging the kind of tradition of Indian culture, bringing modernity. What we try to do seems to be different, not choosing one or the other one, but having elements of both.
With globalization, there became this mindset that either you can be traditional Indian or you can be Western. You don't have to be westernized to be modern. And that is something that we are kind of coming into right now, especially in design, where our generation is basically trying to find our own Indian identity in this melting pot.
I think the fact that you're part of two cultures now, the Indian and Western, made me, this is how we probably could connect. First work which I probably got to know was Calcula. Tell me about this, how it started.
Calcula started with the class with Tal Lemming. In MICA, the first semester we had a class called Type Design, which I wanted to take, obviously. And I didn't know, I never thought I'd become a type designer, but I was very interested in typography and at least I wanted to learn the software. But Tal was he opened the doors for me really, and he's done a lot of projects that are groundbreaking. And he just had this, he didn't have any inhibitions about, he's never said I don't think that's possible. So he pushed me towards doing Calcula. Now I can suddenly see the formal aspect as well as readability. So that interested me very much to do Calcula. So I wanted to see if Kufic lettering, the quality of Kufic lettering can be brought to the Latin script where the relationship between negative and positive space is equal.
It is a common pattern that starts from very expressive typography and you create other typefaces which follow the suit and they really show potential of what type can do. And then slowly getting to something a lot more down to earth, a lot more functional. How did this happen? What we're seeing now, Oli?
I always thought I want to just make display fonts because display fonts are fun and they let you kind of experiment and you're not really tied down by tradition or readability or any of the rules. Oli also came out of the same place that Calcula did, in the sense of looking at things in a much larger scale, trying to find ways in which we can design for the country without compromising on our languages. When the computer first came into graphic design, it was a boon for almost all of the world. Like, it pushed graphic design by like 10 years. But in India, it really pulled it back because we found that graphic designers suddenly lost all the freedoms that they had with metal type because our scripts are so complicated and there is so many matras and conjuncts. And the way most of our scripts work did not fit well with the first generation of computers. I think neutrality is something that I really admire in typefaces because how do you design a typeface that nobody would consciously notice? I think I was reading in the book by Bram Didus about the design of lexicon, where he says lexicon is not as harmonious as Trinity because that's when you can read it, that there are little peculiarities with it that you can notice and read. I'm very, very interested in text fonts that have a lot of character, that you can read that and also notice. So you can read and look at the same time. Like, some of my favorite text fonts are Fedra Serif, for example, or fonts by Storm that are very specific, that have qualities of display typefaces, but for text. And I'm very interested in that. And I think Oli was an attempt at that, at getting a very noticeable character for a very functional workhorse.
How do you design the Indic scripts?
Indic scripts were designed by my partner Arya. So we kind of set out a plan. So with Oli, we wanted to always design it as a system. We didn't want to design the Latin first and then see where it goes. We wanted, before we started drawing, we decided that we want to design a typeface with 9 scripts.
I think we should meet the person who's designing.
Yeah.
Where is Arya? How did you two meet?
We studied in the same college, and we did our foundation year together, and we both opted for graphic design after the first year.
Yeah, we were pretty confused. Like, we wanted to do illustration, we wanted to do graphic design, we wanted to do all kinds of things. I think after Micah, he'd been working in India as a graphic designer. So then he wanted to get more into type. So I introduced him to the software, and a week later he had like 2 almost complete fonts.
Oli has these subtle characteristics that makes it different from other, industrial grotesque typefaces within Latin. How do you manage to translate this or to maintain the characteristics within Indic scripts?
It was more of a form study, so I was familiar with the anatomy of the Indic typefaces, and if I was to say, okay, if I make a K in Devanagari, is this something which complements other existing characters in Latin? So if I'm able to match the form, it sort of brought it together in that term.
We're happy that this one is not commissioned, so that we have the time to kind of make mistakes and correct them and find that, because nothing is set in stone yet with Indic type as of yet, which is good and bad, because we don't have too many precedents to really look into, but we can also invent things as we go. So Oli is like a springboard for experiments that we can perfect and finally use this model for our future work.
Do you think it's technical issues, or is it also the market issues, that while there's so many fonts for English, but very few if you're trying to cover all the writing scripts of India?
I think the culture of buying fonts stopped with metal type and started again in 2009. So there's this 20-year gap in between where the only Indic type you could use came packaged with your page making softwares.
But now people in the industry, they're aware that this is a good practice to follow. So that is something which I can say is like really making it a better thing for the industry.
It's always the most complex to do it for the first time, but then you acquire the experience and skills that it can be used in the future too.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that this will doesn't stop at Oli, but it it's converted to other projects.
This shouldn't be, the last or like one of the few large projects. I think it is quite imperative that there is a uniform system set in, like in general for Indic typefaces.
We're looking at this as opening the doors for more projects and more experiments. We'd love to make a classical version, like a huge serif-based family, which is a classical calligraphic. At the same time, working with companions, like Arya's making November for Typotheque. And so more variety, better choice for graphic designers, better work that will come out.
Excellent.